Conservatives are building their own economy, and it's about to cause us a number of problems. POV, you're waking up in the parallel economy. Obviously, you're going to the gym, so you put on your Lara Trump workout set and your matching Trump 47 sneakers to boot. You grab a cup of your Black Rifle coffee. You light your Candle Club Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings candle. And just before you walk out the door, you remember, oh shit, I gotta pay my Patriot mobile phone bill and pack my Jeremy's razor in its socialism resistant case. Last thing, throw on some pretty little Patriot lip gloss, and you did it, girl. Another morning free from contributing to the woke corporate overlords. If that feels a little extraterrestrial to you, let me define some key terms. We've got the parallel economy here, also called the Patriot economy, the alternative economy, the red economy, the freedom economy. Really what these are niche economies that are trying to serve their own specific demographic. And this is not a new concept. You can look back to the 70s where you see the Christian Yellow pages. This has been around for a while. But in its current iteration, what this group of people really wants is a cancel-proof economy. The phrase I kept hearing over and over again while researching this was stop giving money to people who hate you. That's pretty clear, if you ask me. But let's see what this looks like actually in practice. Well, you have here kind of two different groups that we need to look at. We need to look at brands who are suddenly seeing politics as an attractive thing to participate in, where they had like allergies towards them before, and consumers who now felt comfortable and emboldened and ready to take action, making sure that the companies they were giving their money to were also supporting their values. We've got, 70 million plus Americans that voted for Trump. They've stopped wanting to contribute their money to corporations that they view as not holding the same interests as them. So they're willing to take that money elsewhere. And from a business perspective, I totally understand why that might be appealing. This is a demographic and group of people that has proven loyalty to one guy, no matter the conditions, no matter the timing, no matter what chaos is thrown at him, they've stood by their man. That's very appealing for businesses in this world. Before now, this group of people really suffered from a lack of options in the marketplace. There aren't exactly a plethora of businesses who advertise themselves as for conservatives and conservatives only that they could just flock to from heritage brands where they do all of their spending. But that feeling of underrepresentation in the marketplace just really wouldn't go away. We saw the rise of corporate wokeism, to borrow their parlance, in the Obama era, really swelling through that fateful year, 2020. That's where we really got like the social justice warriors. I feel like you probably haven't heard that term in a while. I had kind of forgotten that that was a term that was really tossed around quite frequently. And they were on their computer checking, okay, who's on the board of this company? Do I support these type of people, or do I withhold my money to make my voice heard and support a different set of ideals? And that really marked a huge cultural shift where you had companies like Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Walmart making these big promises when it came to racial equity, diversity, DEI, that now buzzword term that we're hearing all of a sudden again, ESG, social responsibility when it comes to investment. These were things that were now becoming embedded in our economy. But the thing is, those were mostly addressing a very liberal set of ideals and a liberal worldview. And I like to say, every action has its equal and opposite reaction. We were operating in a world for a while where people were boycotting Bud Light. We saw Kid Rock shooting into the Bud Light cases, being kind of crazy. Their stock tanked, but then they didn't have an option to take their dollars somewhere else. Then you have something. Welcome to the world of ultra-right beer. Suddenly, there's a viable alternative for them to invest in and to put their money towards that reflects their values. So here comes this blossoming alternative marketplace that conservatives are finally getting very excited about, feeling represented economically in their worlds. But what makes this a long-term solution for them, a long-term service for the conservative half of our country to pay into, instead of just a fleeting trend? That's the question that's really been on my mind. To me, what it comes down to is that this has to be self-sustaining. It can't be interacting and intersecting with any parts of the market that they've written off. For example, something that we've heard thrown around for years now is, if you don't like this company's services or this company's product or their ideology, okay, go build your own. The issue with that is, even if you did build your own, there was no unifying marketplace where only conservative businesses and ideals could be represented. And at some point in the process, whether it's launching a website, whether it's having a phone plan for your employees, it had to intersect with these parts of the economy that they wanted to write off. Any website that they were operating was pretty much run through Amazon Web Services, which they've, maybe they feel a little bit differently about Jeff Bezos now that he's buddy-buddy with Trump, but they were like, we don't want that to be any part of our process. But when they look at a company like PayPal, who was paying $530 million, committing that amount of money to racial justice initiatives, diversity, it was worth it to build their own systems. So that's what they're doing. The infrastructure for this alternative economy now exists in companies like Public Square, which Donald Trump Jr., if you've heard of him, is a big funder of, and Parallel Economy, who's running payment methods instead of Stripe, or Square or PayPal, like I said. So all of this can exist contained in their own ecosystem without interference with the woke side of things. That being said, Public Square went public and 9 months later posted losses of $44 million and just $16 million of revenue. So how things are going for them still remains to be seen, but there's a concentrated effort there to keep getting this off the ground. One of the biggest questions that I have, and that I just can't imagine is answered anytime soon, is how is this financially sustainable? If there's one thing that the smartest people in the world have taken away from the 2024 election, it's that it was a referendum on the cost of living. It was people who went out and voted because they were fucking over the price of eggs. It was all we heard about for so long. Looking at a niche marketplace and niche goods serving a niche clientele, that's always going to be more expensive than the wide appeal, mass-produced Walmart products of the world. And for platforms like Public Square, who have an explicit ban, not just on, promoting any pro-choice or promoting any LGBTQ stuff, but bans on goods from China, I don't know where they're going to get that extra money to pay into this economy consistently. So I'll keep monitoring that. But when I'm zooming out, the big question that I was left with and was kind of taunting me this whole time was, what is this going to do to us? How does this change the fabric of our society and the way that we're interacting with one another? What this is a consistent flattening of your world. You're only having one experience and it's being constantly reaffirmed by what you put in your body, by what you put on your body, what you listen to, where you shop, what you think, or how about who you talk to. One of the biggest examples of this that I found, and I was absolutely fascinated to find out that this existed, is two dating apps that are separated by political affiliation. You can only get into the right stuff if you are a proven conservative. You can only get into lefty if you are a proven progressive. Those two worlds exist so far from each other on the societal scale that it scares me what would happen if they were to ever coincide, collide, and interact for real. Lefty, for example, saw a 453% increase in the 2 weeks after the election. 453% increase in people who were downloading that app to only limit themselves to dating people who have the exact same frame of mind as they do. I find that, sorry, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, so wrong. I think that is so wrong. I think it is so bad for us. If you, just on a relationship level, if I can just, Dr. Ruth you for a second, you and your partner need to be able to disagree on things competently, calmly, respectfully. And this refusal to do anything that makes us uncomfortable in this current iteration of society, I think is a really bad thing. You can't go throughout your life without being challenged, without meeting people who are going to push you, without potentially opening your mind to new ideas. How about that? That feels lost in the mix of all of this. Whether we realize it or not, we're actively modeling our behavior off of the institution and the people that we hate. Don't follow the lead of Congress. Feel free to find somebody who disagrees with you, whether online, in person, on a dating app, even in a coffee shop, in line at the grocery store. Have an open conversation. Let's try to figure out a way to meet halfway and not end up bifurcated, unable to be bipartisan, and unable to know one another in this world that we have to live in together. I think you should subscribe even if I'm someone that you disagree with. So make sure you turn those notifications on, comment, whatever, and meet me back here in 2 weeks. Bye.